Imagine a world born from a single voice, a voice so powerful it tore light from darkness, sculpted the earth, and breathed life into dust. In the beginning, everything was perfect. The heavens stretched endlessly above, the seas roared with purpose, and humanity walked in harmony with their Creator. But perfection couldn't last. A single choice shattered it all: fruit bitten, innocence lost, and a curse unleashed. Shame replaced peace. Blood stained the ground soon after, as brother turned against brother in a fit of rage. The first murder echoed across a world, spiraling into chaos. Giants roamed, corruption reigned, and humanity drowned in its own wickedness. God watched, heartbroken, as his creation crumbled. Yet, amid the ruin, a whisper of hope emerged: a man, an ark, and a promise. Floodwaters rose, swallowing the earth, only to give it back, cleansed and quiet. A rainbow pierced the sky, a vow etched in color. From the ashes of judgment, nations were born, spreading across a reborn land. What drove this cycle of creation, collapse, and renewal? How did a perfect beginning lead to such chaos, and then to redemption? Stick around, because this story is just getting started. In the beginning, there was nothing, just a vast empty void, a canvas of silence waiting for its first stroke. Then came the voice, not a whisper, not a shout, but a command so potent it shattered the stillness. God spoke, and the universe obeyed. Light exploded into being, a radiant burst that tore through the darkness like a blade. He didn't stop there. He drew a line between the brightness and the shadow, naming them day and night. Imagine it, a world blinking awake for the first time, bathed in a glow that danced across an endless horizon. He looked at it, this newborn creation, and called it good. That single word, good, echoed with satisfaction, a stamp of divine approval on a masterpiece just begun. But he wasn't finished. On the second day, he stretched out his hands and carved the sky. Picture it, a boundless dome arching over the earth, a ceiling of blue so vast it seemed to hold the breath of eternity. Clouds gathered, winds stirred, and the air itself became a living thing. Below, the earth waited, formless and eager. Then, on the third day, he spoke again. Land rose from the chaos, thrusting upward as if reaching for him. Seas roared into place, their waves crashing with wild, untamed energy. The ground softened, and life erupted. Grass unfurled, trees stretched toward the heavens, and flowers painted the landscape with colors no human eye had yet seen. Each blade, each root, each petal was a testament to his imagination. He stepped back, surveyed the tapestry of green and blue, and once more declared it good. Time unfolded, and the days marched on. The fourth day brought the sun, a blazing orb to rule the day, and the moon, a silver guardian of the night. Stars scattered across the sky like diamonds flung from an open hand, each one a spark of wonder. The fifth day filled the seas with life. Fish darted through the depths, their scales glinting like secrets. Birds took flight, their wings slicing through the air, singing songs no one had yet heard. The sixth day crowned it all. Beasts roamed the land, lions with manes like fire, elephants thundering across plains, creatures of every kind claiming their place. And then, the pinnacle, humanity. God knelt, gathered dust, and shaped Adam. With a breath, he gave him life, a soul to reflect his own image. Later, Eve emerged, a partner drawn from Adam's side, her presence completing the circle. They stood in Eden, a garden so perfect it shimmered with possibility. This wasn't just creation, it was a symphony. Every note, from the first flicker of light to the rustle of leaves, played in harmony. God wove a world of order from chaos, a place where beauty and purpose intertwined. He didn't rush. 6 days. He worked, each one a deliberate act, a brushstroke on a canvas too vast to fathom. And with every step, he paused to see it was good, not out of pride, but out of love. This was his gift, his vision brought to life. But here's the hook. Perfection doesn't stay perfect. What happens when the ones made in his image turn away? When the garden fades and the light dims? That's where the story twists, where the stakes rise. A world so carefully crafted was about to face its first crack. And it all started with a single, fateful choice. Keep listening, because this beginning is only the spark of something much bigger. Let's dive into the moment everything changed, the fall of humanity. Picture this: Eden, a paradise beyond anything we can imagine. Lush gardens stretch endlessly, rivers carve through the land, glistening under a perfect sky. Adam and Eve walk there, free and unburdened. They're surrounded by beauty, trees heavy with fruit, animals roaming in peace, a world pulsing with life. God, their creator, is close. His presence a steady heartbeat in this untouched haven. He's given them everything, every delight, with one simple boundary. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It stands there, tall and tempting, its fruit shimmering like a secret waiting to be unlocked. They don't need it. Everything else is theirs. But that one rule lingers, a quiet test of trust. Then comes the serpent. Sly, smooth-talking, he slithers into the scene, his voice dripping with doubt. Did God really say you can't eat it? He twists the truth, plants a seed of suspicion. You won't die, he hisses. You'll be like God, knowing everything. Eve listens. The words coil around her thoughts. She steps closer to the tree. The fruit catches the light, ripe, radiant, almost alive. It's not just food, it's power, it's wisdom, it's something she suddenly craves. She reaches out, her hand trembling with curiosity and defiance. The skin of the fruit breaks under her touch. She bites. The taste floods her senses, sweet, sharp, forbidden. She turns to Adam, her eyes wide with realization, and offers it to him. He doesn't hesitate. He eats too. In that instant, the air shifts. Something cracks open. Suddenly, they see themselves, really see. Their nakedness hits them like a cold wind. Shame washes over them, a feeling they've never known. They scramble for leaves, stitching them together, desperate to cover what they can't unsee. Their hearts pound. They hear God walking in the garden, his steps steady, searching. Panic sets in. They hide, crouching behind bushes, as if they could escape the one who made them. His voice calls out, "Where are you?" It's not anger, it's sorrow, a question that cuts deeper than they expected. They step forward, trembling, clutching their makeshift coverings. Adam points to Eve. She points to the serpent. Blame flies like arrows, but it doesn't change the truth. They chose this. God speaks again. The weight of his words falls heavy. To Eve, pain will mark your days. Childbirth, longing, struggle. To Adam, the ground itself will fight you. Sweat, thorns, endless toil, until you return to dust. The serpent gets his curse too. Crawling, crushed, forever at odds with humanity. Then, the final blow. They're banished. Eden fades behind them, as an angel with a flaming sword guards the gate. They step into a harsher world, the harmony shattered. The curse of sin seeps in, death, discord, distance from God. The earth groans under this new burden, its rivers no longer singing quite the same. This isn't just their story, it's ours. That bite echoes through time, a ripple we still feel. It's the moment trust broke, when humanity traded paradise for pride. Shame became our shadow, guilt our companion. Yet, even here, there's a thread of something more, a hint that this isn't the end. The fall is steep, but it's not final. What happens next? That's where the real drama begins. Stay with me. This tale's about to twist. Now, let's step into a darker chapter. The moment humanity's story took a brutal turn. Cain and Abel, the first sons of Adam and Eve, stand at the heart of it. Picture this. Two brothers, raised in a world still fresh from Eden's shadow, yet already tinged with the weight of their parents' choice. They're not just names on a page. They're flesh and blood, sweat and soul, each carrying dreams and burdens. They worked the land, tilled the soil, and offered their gifts to God. Abel, a shepherd, brought the finest of his flock, fat portions, tender and pure. Cain, a farmer, laid out the fruits of his fields, grains and produce, the yield of his labor. Two offerings, two hearts, two destinies about to collide. God looked down. Abel's gift found favor. Its sincerity shone through, a reflection of devotion. But Cain's, something was off. Maybe it wasn't his best. Maybe his heart wasn't fully in it. The text doesn't spell it out, but the silence screams. Cain's face fell. Imagine the sting, rejection burning in his chest, a bitter seed taking root. God saw it too. He warned Cain, "Sin is crouching at your door. It wants you, but you can master it." Powerful words, right? A chance to turn back, to wrestle the darkness down. But Cain didn't listen. Instead, jealousy festered. It wasn't just about the offering anymore. It was Abel himself. His brother's favor gnawed at Cain day after day until it became an obsession. Picture him pacing, fists clenched, eyes darting toward Abel as he tended his sheep. The fields, once a place of honest toil, turned into a stage for something sinister. Cain hatched a plan. "Let's go out to the field," he said, voice steady but laced with intent. Abel, trusting, went along. The sun beat down, the wind rustled the grass, and then silence shattered. Cain struck. A rock, a stick, his bare hands. Whatever it was enough. Abel crumpled, blood pooling into the earth, the first life snuffed out by human hands. The ground drank it in, a stain that wouldn't fade. God's voice broke through. "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain's reply drips with defiance. "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" The gall of it, lying to the one who sees all. But the earth couldn't lie. Abel's blood cried out, a haunting echo rising from the dirt, demanding justice. God didn't let it slide. "What have you done?" he thundered. The verdict came swift and sharp. Cain was cursed. The land he once worked would reject him. No more harvests, no more roots. He'd wander, a fugitive marked by his deed, a life taken, a life unmoored. This wasn't just a murder, it was a fracture, the first ripple of violence in a world already teetering. Cain's rage didn't just kill Abel, it birthed a legacy of strife. Think about it. One act, one moment of unchecked envy, and the human story shifted. Families would feud, nations would war, all tracing back to this blood-soaked field. Yet, even here, there's a flicker of mercy. God marked Cain, not to destroy him, but to protect him from revenge. He'd live, but he'd carry the weight. Exile became his prison, his shadow a constant reminder. So, what does this leave us with? A tale of choice, of fury, of consequences that echo beyond the grave. Cain and Abel aren't just ancient figures, they're us. The jealousy that simmers, the anger we let grow. How close are we to that field? It's gripping, isn't it? One brother's blood still speaks, urging us to listen. Humanity multiplied across the earth like wildfire racing through dry grass. What began as a handful of souls in Eden swelled into a tapestry of voices, footsteps, and ambitions. Families grew into tribes, tribes into sprawling communities, their numbers stretching across the plains and valleys. But with growth came a shadow, a creeping darkness that coiled around the hearts of men and women. Corruption didn't announce itself with trumpets. It slipped in quietly, a whisper at first, then a roar. The world God had once called good began to buckle under the weight of its own people. Every corner of the earth seemed to pulse with a restless, reckless energy, an energy that turned sour. Evil wasn't just an act anymore. It became a way of life. People turned their backs on the one who shaped them, chasing desires that twisted their souls. Greed sharpened their hands into claws. Violence painted the ground red. Neighbors became enemies, and trust dissolved like mist in the morning sun. The air grew thick with betrayal. Fathers against sons, sisters against brothers. It was as if the very soil groaned, pleading for relief from the wickedness soaking into it. Humanity, once a reflection of divine beauty, now stared into a cracked mirror, unrecognizable even to itself. And then came the Nephilim, giants born from a forbidden mingling of the sons of God and human daughters. Were they angels fallen from grace, defying their celestial bounds, or simply men of renown, larger than life in both stature and sin? No one knows for certain, but their presence cast a long, menacing shadow. Towering over the land, they embodied the chaos humanity had sown. Their footsteps shook the earth, their deeds amplifying the corruption. Legends whispered of their strength, their arrogance, their unrelenting hunger for power. They weren't just a symptom, they were a storm, a living testament to how far the world had strayed. The cities swelled with noise, shouts of anger, cries of despair, the clatter of lives built on shaky ground. Every thought, every intention seemed dipped in malice. Children learned cruelty before kindness. Leaders rose not to guide, but to dominate. The earth itself felt alive with rebellion, its rivers and hills bearing witness to a people who'd forgotten their origin. God had breathed life into dust, but now that dust choked on its own pride. The line between right and wrong blurred until it vanished entirely, leaving only a haze of selfishness and destruction. Up above, God watched. His heart, once filled with delight at his creation, now ached with a sorrow too deep for words. He saw it all, the endless evil, the unrelenting spiral. The laughter of Eden had faded, replaced by the snarls of a world tearing itself apart. Regret seeped into him, not a fleeting pang, but a heavy, piercing grief. He'd crafted humanity with care, set them in a garden of abundance, and yet here they were, drowning in their own making. The Nephilim loomed as symbols of excess, but the true rot lay in every heart that chose darkness over light. What had started as a spark of life had become a wildfire of ruin. The earth trembled under the weight of its inhabitants, a planet crying out for justice. Humanity's corruption wasn't just a flaw, it was a force, unstoppable and consuming. God's gaze lingered, heavy with the knowledge of what must come next. The world couldn't go on like this. Something had to give, and soon it would, a reckoning vast enough to match the vastness of their fall. Here's an expanded, engaging, and captivating version of Point 5, Noah's Ark, stretched to approximately 600 words. It's crafted to draw the listener in, with vivid storytelling and emotional depth, keeping them hooked from start to finish. Picture a world drowning in its own filth. Corruption had spread like wildfire, searing through humanity's heart. The air was thick with violence, the ground stained with greed. People had forgotten the one who made them. Their laughter was cruel, their hands quick to harm. Even the earth seemed to groan, buckling under the weight of their sin. God looked down, his patience stretched thin. Regret shadowed his gaze. He'd crafted this world with love, spoken life into every corner. But now, it mocked him. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, one man caught his eye, Noah. A flicker of righteousness in a sea of darkness. God chose him, not because he was perfect, but because he listened. The command came like thunder. Build an ark, God said, a massive vessel, a floating fortress. Noah stood there, probably blinking in disbelief. The sky was clear, the sun still shone. Flood? What flood? But he didn't argue. He grabbed his tools and got to work. Imagine the sound. Hammers pounding, wood creaking, sweat dripping as he shaped beams taller than trees. His neighbors must have laughed. Crazy old Noah, building a boat on dry land. They jeered, pointed, maybe even threw stones. But Noah kept going. Day after day, he stacked planks, sealed seams, and trusted a voice they couldn't hear. God gave him the blueprint, long as a football field, wide as a house, 3 stories high. Room for his family, his wife, his 3 sons, their wives, and something wilder, animals. 2 of every kind, God said. Picture that moment. Noah, standing at the edge of his ark, watching the horizon. Then they came. Lions stalking in pairs, their manes glinting gold. Elephants lumbering, trunks swaying. Birds, eagles, sparrows, parrots, swirling overhead in a riot of color. Snakes slithered, deer bounded, even the smallest beetles scuttled aboard. It wasn't chaos, it was order, a parade of life, marching to safety under God's watch. Noah didn't question it. He just opened the door. Then the sky cracked open. Rain didn't trickle, it roared. Sheets of water slammed the earth, relentless, unstoppable. Springs burst from below, a rebellion of the deep. The mockers stopped laughing. Their shouts turned to screams as the flood swallowed everything. Huts, hills, dreams. The ark rocked as waves clawed at its sides. Inside, Noah's family huddled, hearing the world die. Animals shifted, restless but alive. Days bled into weeks. The water rose, a gray tomb over a broken planet. Every breath outside the ark was gone, every heartbeat silenced. Except here. In this wooden refuge, life held on. Weeks turned to months. Noah waited, peering through a small window. The rain stopped, but the silence was deafening. Water stretched to the horizon, a mirror of loss. Then, a shift. Winds stirred. The ark groaned as it settled. Land peeked through, shy at first, then bold. Noah sent a raven, then a dove. The dove came back with an olive leaf, green, fragile, a whisper of hope. The earth was waking up. When he finally stepped out, mud squished under his feet. The air was sharp, clean. Animals spilled forth, reclaiming the wild. God's judgment had passed. The flood had washed away the rot, leaving a blank slate. Noah stood there, a survivor, a witness. The world was his again, but it would never be the same. This version amplifies the drama, paints vivid scenes, and pulls the listener into Noah's journey, making it a gripping centerpiece for your video. After the floodwaters receded, the earth lay silent, a vast canvas washed clean of its former stains. Noah stood at the threshold of the ark, the creak of its weathered wood fading into the stillness. The air felt different, crisp, untainted, as if the world had taken a deep breath and exhaled its past. His family stepped out behind him, their eyes wide with awe. The ground beneath their feet was no longer the cursed soil of old. It was a promise reborn. Every blade of grass, every distant bird's cry, seemed to hum with possibility. God had spared them, and now the earth stretched before them, vast and unclaimed. Noah lifted his face to the sky. The clouds parted, and a strange, radiant arc appeared, colors bleeding into one another, vivid against the gray. Red melted into orange, then yellow, green, blue, and violet. It was unlike anything they'd ever seen. God's voice broke the silence, steady and warm. He spoke of a covenant, a vow etched not in stone, but in light. Never again would floodwaters consume all life. This rainbow was his signature, a seal of mercy painted across the heavens. Noah's heart swelled. After so much loss, the screams of the drowning, the endless rain, this was a lifeline. Mercy had won. The animals poured out next, a living tide spilling from the ark. Elephants lumbered beside deer, lions paced near lambs, their instincts hushed by the strange peace of survival. They scattered across the hills, their tracks marking the birth of a new era. Noah watched them go, his hands still calloused from years of hammering planks. He'd built this refuge under a sky that mocked him, neighbors jeering as he stacked timber. Now, those voices were gone, swallowed by the deep. The ark stood as a testament, not just to his obedience, but to a God who keeps his word. His wife gripped his arm, her eyes tracing the rainbow's curve. Their sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, stood nearby, their wives whispering about what lay ahead. The world felt fragile, like a child taking its first steps. Noah knew it wouldn't stay pure forever. Sin still lingered in their bones, a shadow they couldn't outrun. But this moment, this covenant, offered a pause, a chance to breathe before the next chapter unfolded. The rainbow wasn't just beauty, it was a warning and a hope intertwined. It said the story wasn't over. Days turned to weeks. The family built anew, their hands shaping shelters from the wreckage of the old world. The earth responded eagerly. Crops pushed through the soil, vines twisted upward, as if desperate to reclaim what was lost. Noah often sat alone, gazing at the horizon where the rainbow had faded. He wondered about the generations to come. Would they remember this promise? Would they see the colors in the sky and hear the echo of God's voice? Or would they forget, drifting back into the chaos that had drowned their ancestors? The covenant wasn't just for him. It was for all who'd follow. A fragile thread of trust tied humanity to its maker. Noah felt the weight of that. His sons would father nations, their children scattering like seeds on the wind. The rainbow would linger in their stories, a whisper of mercy amid the storms yet to come. It was a fragile truce, a moment of grace carved into time. And as the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the reborn land, Noah knew. This was no ending. It was a beginning, wild and untamed, pulsing with the heartbeat of a world remade. After the floodwaters retreated and the ark settled on solid ground, a new chapter dawned for humanity. Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, stepped out into a world washed clean, a blank canvas of possibility. The air was crisp, the earth quiet, and the scars of the old world buried beneath layers of mud and memory. These three men, their wives at their sides, carried the weight of a fresh beginning. From their bloodlines, nations would rise, civilizations destined to carve their names into the stone of history. What started as a small family gazing at a rainbow would ripple outward, shaping the ancient world in ways they couldn't foresee. Shem, the eldest, became the father of a lineage marked by promise. His descendants stretched across the land, their tents dotting the hills and plains. From his seed sprang the Israelites, a people who would wrestle with God himself, their story etched in fire and faith. They were stubborn, resilient, chosen for a purpose they'd only glimpsed through generations. Shem's legacy wasn't just in numbers. It was in the quiet strength of a family, destined to carry a covenant forward. Imagine their campfires flickering under starlit skies, voices whispering tales of the flood, passing down a hope that refused to fade. Ham, bold and unyielding, sired a different kind of legacy. His children ventured south and west, their hands building empires of stone and ambition. Egypt rose from his line, a land of towering pyramids and golden sands, where pharaohs ruled as gods among men. The Nile flowed through their story, a lifeline of power and mystery. But Ham's descendants weren't confined to one kingdom. The Canaanites, fierce and proud, claimed their own corner of the earth. They were warriors, traders, builders, people who defied the flood's lesson with cities that reached for the heavens. Ham's blood pulsed with defiance, a restless energy that refused to bow. Japheth, the youngest, cast his gaze wide. His sons and daughters wandered far, their footsteps tracing the edges of the known world. They filled distant valleys and climbed rugged mountains, their tribes scattering like seeds on the wind. From Japheth came peoples who would one day sail vast seas and forge new paths. His legacy was exploration, a curiosity that drove them beyond the horizon. Picture their ships cutting through waves, their songs rising over foreign shores. Japheth's line stretched the boundaries of the earth, threading their way into cultures yet unborn. As these nations grew, the earth hummed with life again. Cities sprouted, mud brick walls climbing toward the sky, marketplaces buzzing with voices in a dozen tongues. The flood was a memory, but its echoes lingered. Shem's children clung to the promise of the rainbow. Ham's built monuments to their own glory, and Japheth's sought the unknown. Together, they wove a tapestry of humanity, flawed, vibrant, and unstoppable. The Israelites would clash with the Canaanites, their battles staining the land red. Egypt would tower over its neighbors, its shadow long and unyielding. Japheth's scattered tribes would trade tales with strangers, their stories blending into the fabric of time. This was no quiet rebirth. It was a collision of wills, a chorus of voices rising from the silence. Noah's sons didn't just repopulate the earth, they ignited it. Their descendants carried the weight of the past and the spark of the future. From a single ark, the world exploded into diversity, nations born of survival, ambition, and dreams. Listen closely, and you can hear it. The rhythm of their footsteps, the clang of their tools, the prayers and curses on their lips. This is where the story turns outward, where humanity stakes its claim. The flood faded, but the fire they kindled still burns. As I reflect on this story, I'm struck by its raw humanity. It's not just a tale of cosmic creation or divine judgment. It's a mirror held up to us all. The beauty of a world spoken into existence feels breathtaking, yet the speed of its unraveling hits hard. Adam and Eve's choice wasn't just their own, it's mine too. Those moments I've chased what I shouldn't, only to face the fallout. Cain's jealousy, the Nephilim's chaos, the flood's erasure, they remind me how fragile goodness is, how quickly it can slip away. But Noah's Ark, that rainbow, they whisper something else. Even in ruin, there's a chance to start over. It's messy, it's real, and it leaves me wondering about my own capacity for both destruction and renewal. The takeaway here is profound. Life is a cycle of beginnings and endings, of choices that echo beyond us. We're not just inheritors of this ancient narrative, we're part of it. Our actions shape the world, for better or worse. Mercy exists, but so does accountability. It's a tension that defines us. So, what now? I urge you to dig deeper. Question the stories you've been told about the world, about yourself. Explore the threads of creation and redemption woven through history. Talk about it. Share your thoughts with someone. Wrestle with the big ideas. This isn't just a dusty old tale. It's a challenge. How will you respond to the light and darkness in your own life? Will you build an ark of your own, a refuge for hope? Step into that conversation. Seek the truth behind the rainbow. Let this story stir something in you, because it's not over yet, and neither are you.